Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast with me, your host, Imperial Dane, featuring today a 1 vs 1 on Semois. Yes, indeed, it's from the ongoing Reddit tournament. This one featuring AsiiJeep and WmdSandland going up against each other. That is two Danes fighting out in a manner, I suppose, somewhat Danish by beating the snot out of each other online. We shall be watching WmdSandland play for the Wehrmacht with the two pioneers start fighting for the 17th SS. Panzergrenadier Division Götz von Bellingen going up against Jeep fighting for the Americans. Strangely enough, fighting for the, I don't know, 1st Infantry Division. Bags going up. That is Jeep going for the 3 engineer start. That's, of course, initially hoping to secure more territory than San, and of course can. And hopefully also, perhaps, bit swifter, get up some flamethrowers and torch some krauts. San, of course, going instead with his more regular Volksgrenadier start with his pioneers. In fact, also note here, he's not bothering sending any further than this area, so instead he's going to be focusing right here. No, he's going to be focusing here. He's not going to be extending too far here. It has, I suppose, some advantages, of course, and also note focusing rather swiftly here, but I mean, there's a slight chance, of course, that you actually end up without having any sort of warning about what's going to happen here towards your fuel point. That is, the opponent, that is Steve, in this case, can actually sneak up here and secure the fuel point here, and you won't know what's going on until it's actually standing right in front of it. And that's at least sort of our reasoning for perhaps not going. We're seeing a bike out second, and of course is there partly, for reconnaissance purposes, thus of course giving you an increased line of sight. But of course it's also there, at least that's how I, for example, use a swim, which is, just a bike with slightly more health and the ability to reverse, but it's also there to give the initial Volksgrenadier squad a boost, because then overall they will have greater firepower in case, the 1st Rifleman squad, I mean, they will definitely be able to win that, since they will be able to muster more firepower. And of course at the same time the Schwimmwagen or bike can just, push in just in case, to just cause a bit of a mess for the opponents. So again, rather something that can give you an initial advantage to support your Volksgrenadiers, and thus perhaps, push the Americans a bit further back. And there we go, we are seeing Jeep's Rifleman pushing up towards a slightly more cautious advance, not rushing towards anything there for Jeep. Point being secured there. 2nd Volksgrenadier squad on the way. And there we go, munition secured again. This is pretty open, a bit of a weak spot, I think. There's certainly part, I imagine, of a calculated risk by WmdSandland in his capping order. There we go, 2nd squad of Volksgrenadiers right. Deep bike moves in, opens up a bit again. Also spots if there's something else waiting for the Volksgrenadiers as they march into town. Across the road, and there we go, the Riflemen coming under fire, pulling back a bit. Bike quickly rises in, perhaps hoping to again to push it back. There we go, in fact, getting one bastard while he was trying to get back to the rest. 2nd squad of Volksgrenadiers slowly arriving. And the bike actually pulling back a bit, perhaps hoping for the pioneers to swiftly repair it, while the Volksgrenadiers keeps the Yankees busy on the other side of the cemetery. And there we go, the engineers are moving up here. And we are seeing an MG42 on the way for WmdSandland. Of course, the question is, will we be able to react? And we're actually seeing Jeep moving away from the cover. The bike quickly rushes in. Perhaps he might have hoped to actually lure in the bike, who knows? Of course, at the same time, he's making himself a target to the Volksgrenadiers, which is definitely to the advantage. But there we go, the bike's almost done for. MG42 still moving notes, reacting now to the engineers taking up there. Pioneers here not doing too well with engineers equipped with a flamethrower, and there we go. We are seeing Jeep pulling back, not a full head-sawn retreat. Every man for himself, more the sort of let's pull back and see if we can't ensure that Hans does an advantage. Of course, in this case, Hans, being sort of a moniker for Germans rather than the helping Hans. This, of course, being WmdSandland. Bike quickly under fire again. And there we go. We're actually seeing that WmdSandland spread out his forces a bit, which actually allows Jeep to sort of wedge between them and actually force them away, which is not really to the advantage of WmdSandland. In particular now, of course, his MG42's up here trying to protect this fuel point. Didn't quite work. Oh, they didn't finish the mine. Come on, WmdSandland. Oh, dear. Oh, dear, indeed. MG42 rushing back. And looks like it's Sniper on the way to the 2 Volksgrenadiers. MG Sniper with a bike thrown in for good measure. Strategy. sort of initially.
What are your orders?
More one for doing damage to the Americans, less about securing dominance on the field through, you know, being able to sort of reasonably well control the field. Mine's going down there. This one was actually cancelled. I wonder why. Perhaps Sandland was not confident this was a good mining position anyway. More sniper on the way. No upgrade here, at least not what I can see. At the same time, we are seeing a supply on the way for Jeep, so he could in fact be rushing for an armoured car. He certainly only got 3 rifleman squads. That would definitely be indicative of an armoured car rush, which is also one of the reasons you could go for more engineers, thus securing more fuel early on, thus fitting in for a rush.
Attention.
Lots of mines there. Sandland really worried about any sort of flanking attempt behind the cemetery through the bocage. Not a bad idea. And there go the sniper rushing in. Sandland feeling pretty brazen with him. Getting one just outside the cemetery. Keep up the good work. Thank you. And he could perhaps be a bit further forwards, I think. It looks like we might be seeing another flanking attempt up here. At least some harassment by Mr. Jeep. And there's no mine here, anything to protect this cut-off point. Rather than advancing slowly. Ooh, mine going off there could be very nasty. Flamethrower with a punish, coming up with a flamethrower. They're a bit exposed there. Flamethrower engineers rushing in. There's no MD to cover. It's finally moving though for Sandland. Of course, he could get the sniper to sort of make a few good shots. And oh, down to 1 pioneer with very little health and lost. That was definitely a blow to Sandland there. Although down to 2 riflemen in the side, the house. Sandland definitely under pressure in the north again. And the pioneers. Oh dear, he could in fact end up losing both pioneer squads within the same minute, which would definitely not constitute as a good development for the Wehrmacht and for the 17th. Pretty much the only SS unit which did not fight on the Eastern Front. Which actually makes it a bit of a rarity, since most of them were eventually sort of shifted over to the Eastern Front to sort of try and contain the mess over there. And in fact, most of them fought over there without actually ever seeing the Western Front, in particular all the volunteer divisions, as they were called, from different countries, like France, Belgium, Holland, Denmark, Norway, even a few Swedes. Anyways, Sandland pushing up there, MG sniper. No barbed wire, perhaps that could be an idea to perhaps, you know, ensure that the Americans will have a harder time moving in. But we are seeing the armored car ready. We're seeing a weapon support center probably trying to end the life of this sniper. And ooh, mining, pretty brazen stuff there by Jeep. What we love to see. Krieg backs up, but he's not going to be ready in time. Perhaps Sandland waited a bit too long. In fact, he got several additional pioneers. I think that might have been a bit over the top.
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness, Jeep! Aren't we being crafty, eh? Laying down a machine gun in place to actually protect the northern fuel point. That is some, again, pretty brazen stuff. That could really make it difficult for Sandland to sort of swing forward something. And he's actually mining there. He's worried about an armored car rush into his base.
Yes, comrade.
Not unexpected, of course. That's certainly a nice trick, in particular when you don't have any clue what's going on here. I mean, an armored car rush through here is really nasty. And there we go, hitting the mine, and the 30 caliber nest actually gets 1 pioneer. This is definitely not looking up for Sandland.
The enemy is seizing our territory.
Armored car sort of patrolling. Minesweeper engineers would definitely be the target, and there we go, sniping them. Blimey, awfully close to getting the sniper right there with a 37mm gun on the Greyhound, spotting the mine. With the dying breath of the minesweeper, he goes, "It's over there. Remember me and don't tread on the mine. It's really painful, I hear. Though I never really tread on one, I got shot." Looks like we're seeing a nice flank up there. We're finally seeing a pack out. We're seeing some grenadiers out, some more solid troops of the 17th. Greyhound rushes in, trying to get some Fultz Grenadiers for dinner. Probably not. And there we go, Hans bit the dust. There we go, the Grenadiers are out. He could technically try and flank over here. I mean, this is sort of the slight problem with this, although we're seeing engineers with flamethrowers to protect it. Could work. Well, I mean, otherwise it could be flanked like this, and for that matter, like this. But of course, again, we could be seeing additional defense. We're in fact seeing more flamethrower engineers. Jeep is definitely not going to give up the fuel point right there, because again, as long as he's holding this, Sandland will be getting abysmally little fuel, and of course, he'll be getting a lot of fuel. In fact, he's getting 32 fuel per minute, which is definitely a lot more than Sandland is currently getting. I mean, Sandland's holding most of the victory points, but he's not holding most of the resources. Of course, the question now becomes, how can Jeep leverage this in a way that's sort of most beneficial to him? We do see a sniper slowly advancing. Sandlands keep raking up the kills, possibly chalking off somewhere near the cemetery wall. Forgetting the irony, of course, of counting up the kills in a cemetery. Pack ready, mine there to protect, perhaps in case of a retreat. Surviving hiding over there, Pioneers moving there. No mines on the bridge, that's... Usually you actually see a mine right about here. That's a bit interesting. Sandland has not bothered with that. Volksker's advancing. Pioneers inside the church. Possibly discussing French architecture and building methods, for all I know. A nice, actually, little gap here in the cemetery actually means the Germans can quickly retreat without having to go up through and perhaps exposing themselves to the Americans. That's definitely nice. Pack, though, might want to consider moving, actually. I mean, this is not really a strong position for it, and once, of course, spotted, it could be in a lot of trouble. And the fighting continues here. Grenadiers, again, we are seeing now the attempt to sort of clear out the machine gun emplacement, but we are seeing 2 flamethrower engineers. And again, light cover is not necessarily the best place to be against these engineers, but somehow the Grenadiers managed to get one squad. The other one is definitely not in a good condition either. Engineers pinned, they hit the mine, but the pack crew also took the worst of it right there. Trying to get out of there, the Americans trying to hunt it down. Bike caught there by Jeep's men. The first fight on rather heroically. Engineers quickly retreated to the machine gun emplacement, perhaps not working out so well, and we are seeing an awful lot of infantry streaming back and forth here for Sandland. I think another Grenadier squad has actually been trained. Pack not having a lot of luck escaping. Some menace of Jeep. Now the Grenadiers are sort of just slowly trying to knock out the machine gun emplacement. Though we are seeing a Pioneer force being sent in to help with it. Lovely.
Enemy unit.
None with flamethrowers though, so that might actually take some time. There we go, Greyhound actually moving in. Again, Jeep keeping up the vice right here. Pack actually stolen by Jeep. That's definitely nice. That's also going to make it a bit more tricky if Sandland actually gets any sort of armor on the field. Of course, he's going to risk his own pack. And Bike moves in. Oh, gets one of the crew members. Oh, the pack gets the Bike, and BARs go up for Jeep. And he gets a second sniper. And we are seeing infantry trucking going up. We're seeing artillery going in. On the Kriegbergs. Grenadiers could be caught by the artillery. Oh, pack gunner is down. He died a heroic death. And the Kriegbergs is down, but the Greyhound takes the hit from the pack. Of course, now we'll have to drive past there, and that could be the moment the pack gets it. And there we go. Greyhound is gone. Still, Sandland is under some rather heavy pressure. Bit surrounded on all sides by evil-minded Yankees. Definitely needs to make some progress of some sort. Oh, sniper misses. No. That was definitely not to his advantage. There we go. Sniper reeling himself again. Can Sandland? No, misses again. Oh. Yeah, I think there's actually some sort of thing about if it shoots enough, when it then the sniper has to reload, you know, put in another clip, he gets a sort of double shot. It's a bit weird, actually. I think that's how I saw it explained somewhere. And there we go, using the pack, and apparently he deleted it. Oh well, fuel point is finally reasonably secure. Of course, you could also try and salvage the armored car right there for munitions. Another thing, of course, for Sandland to consider with all the infantry now in the field could be a medic bunker to sort of pick up the wounded. At the same time, though, question is, what shall he be going for? Perhaps an on-map howitzer?
Sniper ready for battle.
Jeep pushing into the center. Foot's grenadiers on the run. Sniper MG. And another pack ready to replace the one nicked by the Yankees.
Time to kill some crowd.
And there we go, the assault commences, hitting over the nice flank here. These grenadiers are not really in good condition to fight. And Sandland once more finds himself being pushed back by some pretty solid American pressure from Jeep. The Jeep hasn't actually been bothering much with mining up the town, though again he might be saving all the munitions for artillery. And there we go, some nice machine gun fight. Quickly stops the advance right there. Sniper opens up. Oh! Misses! And there we go, Jeep sitting there even now, of course, with all those misses of snipers. Storm armory up, so we could be seeing some heavy armor. That's definitely going to benefit Sandland. Again, I also think a medic bunker would benefit him. In particular with the BRs, of course, which mean higher losses amongst his foes. In particular, when he has no veterancy, again, a medic bunker really would be a huge thing. If again and of course, there's the threat of on-map artillery or off-map. Again, then you sort of place it near a building, for example, right behind here, so the building will absorb most of the fire. That's one trick you can do. Rather than getting sniped, getting shot at. And there we go, artillery going off. Direct hit on the house, no one gets killed. That's quite fortunate. And we do see the Germans slowly pulling back. Oh, mine goes off. And a few trees get blown up. Still no mine there, but the first armoured car rolls out for Sandland. He's definitely going to like that. Howitzer 105mm, that was pretty much the standard sort of medium howitzer for pretty much all sides. I mean, the Germans had 105mm, the Soviets had it, the Brits had it, although they, of course, they call it something else. In fact, they might actually have gone with something else slightly though. And there we go, might finally use up that mine. There we go, one engineer down, the rest not really in a fighting condition. Moving up, they're sniped through the face. Ravnier could get stopped, but no, they managed to get behind. Pack rolling up, and there we go, nice hit on the armoured car, the Schwerer Panzerspielwagen, not the Puma. That is first when it gets actually the 50mm gun mounted on it. Sniper slowly sneaking through the cemetery, tiptoeing. Well, the Ravnier doing their best to keep the full screens occupied, and they succeed. And Sandland's once more pushed away. Mine goes off right there, so he's probably actually trying to mine down there. Ooh. Oh, that's rubbish for Sandland. 2 mines went off right there. That's actually a lot of munitions just gone. And the pack crew just got murdered. In fact, turned into mush. And there we go, going for the fuel point again. Watch how the response of Sandland be, I wonder. I mean, the Germans, of course, also had some small artillery. In fact, they rather practiced the concept of infantry guns, which I believe the Soviets also did, although I think the Germans took it a bit further. So it basically meant that even an infantry battalion would have its own small artillery battery formed in a small company to sort of support things, composed with infantry guns, which were of the 75mm and the 150mm sort of stuff, which did ensure that they would at least have some sort of artillery support no matter what. Off-map howitzer blasting the house. Sandland's only under the artillery formed pressure, and we are seeing Blitzkrieg Doctrine out. We are seeing a Stormtrooper squad sneaking in with full assault rifles. He's clearly hoping to ambush the sniper and put a stop to him once and for all. I mean, when you commit a Stormtrooper squad to that, you're definitely mean business, and of course afterwards you can pretty much clean up house with a lot of Sturmgewehr fire. Let's return to Sandland. Who's definitely feeling the pressure. We are seeing the Kampfkraft company up. Veterancy 1 on the way. Lovely.
Veterancy gain. Here.
More artillery towards this spot, which is pretty much the spot where, well, most of the Germans aren't have to move through. So, of course, a pretty good spot to just artillery. Pack hit again. Crewman dead. Oh! Pooh! Direct hit on the armored car. Completely knocked out of commission. More artillery just raining death upon the Germans. And again, sneaking through here. Not a lot of mines to sort of cover his flank from Sand, and he mostly went through here in a sort of tight belt. Mines going down there for Jeep. Pretty aggressive stuff. And perhaps not the most, discreet thing to do in that case. Firing from the ditch into the rifleman down south. The harassment from Jeep continues. Folks going to see us seem to be a bit more preoccupied with taking the point rather than dealing with engineers, trying to turn them into crisps. And there we go, the sniper gets spotted, the stormtroopers charge in, and there we go. Sneak assault unleashed. An assault squad charges forward, tears through everyone. Tank depot up for Jeep, Hellcat moving in. Could in fact see the engineers also get turned to tiny squishy bits. Grenadiers need to quickly move up to support the stormtroopers in their fight against the Hellcat. There we go, engineers dead. That was actually a bit of a nasty loss right there for Jeep. I mean, he lost a pack. He lost an engineer squad and he lost a sniper. Now, of course, the question is how fast will Sandland be able to sort of follow up on this and secure the area. Another armored car ready. Stug on the way. That is good. And I probably also expect something to deal with the Hellcat, since the armored car can't really. Although supposed to be upgunned and gotten some good veterancy upgrades, it might actually have a decent chance. Enter the cemetery, forcing the stormtroopers and the pioneers away. Recrewing the pack, but without enough support, and just as Jeep pushes in with riflemen, definitely not a lucky day there for Sandland. Volkswagen is hit right there. Armor car doing its best to cover the crew, but sadly they do not make it. An artillery shell flings a piece of concrete into the skull of someone, killing him. Riflemen continue advancing into the cemetery, stepping over the remains of tombstones. Snipers opening up, MG setting up. A few grenadiers not really able to sort of do much. And more artillery getting called in. Just an absolute insane plethora of artillery, which is certainly fitting for American strategy, as they were actually highly reliant on artillery during the fight in 1944 and 45. In fact, at one stage it got so bad they were actually running out of ammunition for their artillery. And actually had to rely on whatever they could capture from the Germans to sort of do the fighting there. Sana, though, continues to be under pressure despite his best attempts. I'm going to think a medic bunker might have helped him ever slightly to sort of gain some greater strength in the longer run. Of course, a medic station for Jeep would also benefit him. Still no mine there. In fact, there's a mine from Jeep which actually took out a pioneer. More artillery. Ooh. That was lucky. Folks, guys trying to advance in, but they are coming under heavy fire. They can't really do much against the Hellcat. Need something bigger. That doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon.
Heavy infantry ready to take
Engineers now joining the fun a bit in the north as well. Some grenadiers making nice progress there, stopping some riflemen. And something got blown up, but I'm not entirely sure what. Engineers suffering losses again. Stug not making a move, but we are seeing Sandland pushing in hard. Even the storms being sent in, and another Sturmgeschütz. Wunderbar. The Stug 4 being an interim solution, basically because the factories producing the Stug 3 actually got bombed, and to sort of make up for things, the Stug 4 was designed. Apparently, though, it was actually meant for the whole Stug line to actually be replaced with the Jagdpanzer 4. Since that was apparently actually supposed to be sort of easier to produce, and apparently also a bit better overall. Though that really didn't come off too greatly. Partly, I suppose, because switching off production completely would have taken some time. And it was not time they could afford. There we go, the second Stug up. Veterans who wanted the armor. Great on the way. Definitely what I was looking for. To ensure the assault guns could hold up a bit. And there we go, Sniper gets a pack crew member until he opens up again. I imagine the remains of the town will be the target. Again, there we go, going for the victory point, in fact. A nice beacon, of course, to hit. It's certainly not uncommon for anyone sort of army to actually blow up any sort of what I could suppose call landmarks to ensure that the artillery gunners had a bit of a harder time actually hitting anything. Certainly this cemetery seems to have been largely defiled at this stage of the fight. The Sniper of Santa, though, seems to be doing a pretty good job. 25 kills, killing yank after yank, snuffing out their lives with a scoped Gewehr 43. Ooh, nice! Flanking in with a Ranger, hitting the rear. Excellent, excellent job. Storms was not able to react. Stug, though, arrives, and Rangers are just charging in. Sniper retreats. But, of course, the Thompson submachine gun equipped Rangers are continuing nonetheless. And there we go, forcing the MG away, allowing the infantry assault to advance. Excellent move right there by Jeep. Stormtroopers are sneaking up behind. Also nice move right there. Some very nice infantry maneuvers by both players. In fact, some excellent infiltration tactics, despite, you know, not clogging up. Still would say that's a nice infiltration. And there we go. Rifleman Rangers pushed away, but certainly did quite a bit of a job there. Assault guns pushing forwards. Anti-tank gun could get cleared out. Assault guns pushing forwards with a vengeance. A bit of resources being flooded by Sandland. And in fact, if he just waits a bit, he could in fact get himself a Tiger tank, which could probably actually turn this fight around. Armor car rolls in and pack decrewed. Oh no, the Stugs actually pull away instead of perhaps trying to get the Hellcat. In fact, Jeep is rather damaged right here.
The enemy is seizing our territory.
But rather looks like Sandland is not pushing it. In fact, he's calling in a Stu. I don't think he needs a Stu 42 at this stage. Again, I think he should have either waited, should have saved up for a Tiger. He could also now consider perhaps, you know, branching over towards here to sort of get the victory points, then force further pressure upon Jeep. Artillery going in on the retreating Germans. Sandland definitely seems a bit worried. Pulling back rather swiftly into the town again. And thus, without even taking any territory, perhaps not the best move by Sandland. Gives Jeeps a lot of time to basically just return to the offensive. Sandland must not be feeling very confident at all. In fact, to just go back to the defensive like that. Rangers and Riflemen lining up. Hellcat soon ready again to move out and punish some Panzers. And there we go. The assault commences. Rangers and Riflemen blasting in. But actually end up pulling back due to a nice maneuvering right there by Sandland, ensuring they don't get caught off guard. In fact, pushing in the Stug 4. Veteran D2 on the way for the assault guns. That's definitely not a bad idea. Quite a bit of munitions being floated by Sandland as well. He could consider Goliath. He could also consider just upgrading some of his grenadiers with LMGs, or perhaps some false grenadiers with MP40s or just a little mines. I mean, I would definitely suggest just doing something with all the munition he has. Just something. Rangers moving in and getting gunned down in the north. And there we go, artillery blasting right into the lines of Sandland excellently. These Volksguards in fact could get gunned down if Sandland's not quick enough to retreat. Dear, and there we go. Of course, could have been a retreat back for all I know. Artillery blasting in. Ooh. Wayne just getting torn up, but so are the rest. More hit. No, that's a Sherman actually. A Sherman arriving to support. Sandland Sniper is actually still alive. Ooh, the Rifleman here could in fact manage to barely get out. The house is not too bad off. But definitely the eastern part of Semois is largely gone. Volkswagen is getting shot to bits right there. And the Volkswagen has actually got cut down on the retreat. And again, some rifle moving in there, but this time there might be some stormtroopers to pull a little surprise. There we go. Bundle grenade, the Gebaldeladung, and charging in. Ooh, he manages to retreat in time. The bundle grenade does very little. And repair banker up. Nice move there by Sandland. Certainly allows him to focus more on fighting the enemy rather than ordering pioneers about to do repairs. Sandland again seems awfully passive. He's not really pushing over towards him. I mean, if he could do that, he could actually cut off a lot of munitions for Jeep, which would certainly also minimize the amount of artillery he can direct against Sandland's positions. So I'm a bit disappointed it doesn't quite seem to happen. Stuke though holding up here in the centre nonetheless. Rangers moving in and trying to clear out the chaps in the church. And of course more artillery into the remainders of the cemetery. Veteran G2 already. Small engagement up here, and the Rifle actually end up losing pretty badly since the sniper has actually been sent in there. 27 kills. Kill count keeps rising.
The Germans are after one of our munitions points.
And of course, right here he could perhaps, try and sneak in someone and trying to deal with that howitzer. I mean, he could, use all that munitions, upgrade the armored car, basically just rush it in and try to do some damage to the howitzer, perhaps even knock it out. I mean, it would be pretty risky, and I would also definitely agree there's a chance it might, not do the trick. On the other hand, if it does, it would be pretty huge. In fact, that could actually sink the entire effort of Jeep. Also note supply yard upgrade. Lovely. Overall, though, nice infantry strategy with some assault gun support by Sandland, but again, I think he needs some medic bunkers to sort of build it up, or should have had it earlier. He's also being a bit too conservative, I think, with his forces. Just playing it a bit more defensively. Which is not necessarily how you want to go when there's artillery being leveled against you. He's actually leaving the armored car down here. That's also a bit risky, in particular since, of course, we, the viewers, and me, the caster, know that, of course, there's a Hellcat down there. Of course, it does, but even then, I mean, some sort of armored response should be predicted. Oh, Pioneer Squad dead. Rather than charging in, getting the full scales, but the Stormtroopers charge in, hit the flank, and we could see an off-map combat group anytime soon. At the same time, of course, the Hellcat gets the armored car. Sandland seems to have gone a bit. Bun grenade, and there we go. The Stormtroopers just make short work of the riflemen. I mean, 4 assault rifles are deviously excellent weapons. Armored car tries to get out of the sticky bomb, gets the armored car, and good night. Veterans who won for the riflemen.
Taking one of our points.
Going for the cutoff point about time, but counter response by Jeep is to just call in some artillery, and gets the entire Stormtrooper squad. Absolutely devious, and we see an armored car, more riflemen, and an anti-tank gun. This is definitely not looking good for Sandland again. Too much pressure everywhere. Not enough things to sort of keep up the losses down. Grenadiers just getting blasted. Retreat, perhaps.
Enemy unit down.
And another squad down. Still no medic bunker. Stormtroopers being equipped with assault rifles. No, not assault rifle, but Panzerschreck. And yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. Can happen. Can also happen sometimes. You actually end up pressing another key on the keyboard rather than the one you actually want to press. Sometimes I found myself, why are my troops not retreating? And then I find out I'm pressing Y. And thus I found out why my troops are not retreating. Because I pressed Y. Terrible pun, I know. But true, I'm afraid. And there we go, sneaking forward with a fresh anti-tank gun. With armor-piercing rounds actually available. Ooh, nice hit by the Stormtroopers on the rear. And a fresh stormtrooper squad called in again. More assault rifles on the way. Rangers doing what they can there. Of course, more artillery going in towards here. The sniper actually keeps on killing. He's doing a pretty good job. Stu 42 was actually left out on the flank. I think that should have been a regular assault gun rather than the one that's
enemy unit.
Excellent dealing with infantry. And looks like something went down. Probably the MG. Still no Tiger for Sandland. I think a Tiger could probably save the day for him. Looks like someone died, but I'm not entirely sure who. Though by the looks of it, it was a rifleman squad. And a nice little flanking attempt and harassment, of course, by Jeep. Hitting the sign, of course, increasing pressure on Sandland. And in the north, we do see that the Rangers and the Stormtroopers are going at each other. Note, little thing here. The assault rifles of Stormtroopers, Knights Cross, and of course, Panzer Gunners from the Panzer Elite ignore elite armor. And of course, Rangers start out with elite armor. So, I mean, this is actually a pretty good way of dealing with them since they actually do full damage. And there we go. Rangers pushed away with some heavy losses. The Stormtroopers won the day. This time around.
Front shifting. Crowds are grabbing territory from us.
And more artillery, I suspect, against here. Yes, indeed. Will Sandland be able to retreat in time this time around? Yes, indeed. More artillery going in here to support his rifleman, perhaps, so it's the Stu 42. Actually looks like the Stu 42.
The enemy stands at 300 points.
And more artillery going in, and there's just so much artillery just turning this entire map into a crater. There's moon landscape. Stu 42 now moves in, having a better shot at the rifleman. Hellcat moves in, but comes under fire from the assault gun, and the second one moves in.
Losing ground out there.
And the Stormtroopers reinforcing. And something more on the way from the Sturm Armory.
Listen up, Rangers. What are my coordinates?
And there we go, Veteran C3 Howitzer and both supply upgrades up. Definitely nicely played there by Jim, and of course also keeping his troops going for the longest period of time.
They're losing a fuel point.
There we go, nice advancing up there by Jeep. Anti-tank guns following up slowly. Ooh, mine went off.
Point is ours. What day we lock it down?
Yes, sir. Rifles here.
Could be that the repair bunker is the next target for Jeep's artillery. Death and destruction going on. And we're going to get caught out in the open. Awfully close to death, and our forced retreat. Stu 42 can't really do much. The assault guns, and there we go. Catching the sniper with the Rangers. Excellent, excellent. Will the sniper actually make it out there? No. Rangers get him. And the Stooks are forced to pull further back as the flanks are exposed. One, in fact, charges in to try and mess up the position of the Rangers. Does get hit. Another one is left behind to deal with the rifle on the other side of the river. Storms advancing. Armored car nearby, perhaps not what it's needed now. Again, I think a Tiger could do the trick. Then that might even be too little too late now. Moving in, Stormtroopers fighting desperately. Rangers almost close to death. The Stormtroopers don't give up. Almost down. Barely get out there alive. The two assault guns are still functional, but there's still the anti-tank gun. And now the Shum's actually been upgunned, definitely making a bigger threat to the assault gun right there as well. fact, the anti-tank presence is only increasing for Jeep, with the second Hellcat on the way. Nice hit by the Stu. A few pioneers moving about here. And the remainders of the 17th, or at least of this force, are moving forwards.
We're losing them as fast as we're getting them.
Not a lot left for Sandland, to be honest.
Ready to go on the hunt.
Not sure what's getting repaired here by the repair pioneers, unless of course they got blown up. No, it's apparently the armored car they're focusing on this time around. And the Grenadiers quickly find themselves an easy target for the Sherman and its 50 caliber gun mounted on top. Stormtroopers with dual Pantrick sneaking in. Pretty
Contact with one of our sectors.
last gamble right there by Sandland, and the Grenadier squad went down. Direct hit by the Sherman, Veteran 2, increasing armor penetration even further. On top of that, of course, a Pantrick left behind for the Yankees to secure. But they do not give up. They keep pushing in. And we're seeing artillery pretty much obliterate anyone standing there. Let's return to Sandland as Jeep makes one hell of a push with his Hellcats. Catching the Stu 42 out in the open. Sherman can in fact also move in and do some terrible damage. Oh, Stu direct hit, knocking it out the repair, and chaps never got around to it. Of course, now it does have the Blitzkrieg, but he simply doesn't have the forces, so if he used it, it would be of very little use. Veteran D2 up for the infantry, still no attempt at a Tiger for Sandland.
Losing a sector.
Assault gun almost dead, desperately being repaired. And there we go, one Hellcat down, but the other gets it. Veteran D2 as well. Stormtrooper squad, well, Stormtrooper with a Panzerschreck, and he gets killed. And this pretty much looks like the end for Sandland, and there we go. GG. GG will play it from Jeep. And Sandland is definitely not pleased. And there we go. Game over right there. Bugs now withstanding. It was still a pretty exciting game. Pretty fun. Pretty bold maneuvers from both players. And certainly it rather looked like Sandland might actually had it right there with when he got actually that far. But then he actually pulled back. And I think that might have been the thing that sort of rather cost him the game. Instead of sort of trying to perhaps push a bit further again and sort of trying to secure some territory, just pull back. Overall, though, I mean, pretty interesting game again. I've said that, yes, so never mind. But I mean, things that Sandland could have done better again. I think he would have benefited from a medic bug, you know. Perhaps up here, yes, with all the artillery, it certainly would have a limited lifetime, but even one Grenadier squad or two would have basically paid it off quite nicely. Also, I think there should have been a larger effort, perhaps here to do a bit of harassment on the right-hand side. Sadly, that never really came about until the very later stages of the game. Tiger, I think, was also needed, very much needed. And perhaps he shouldn't have bothered with that Stu 42, instead went for the Tiger. If he'd done that, I think he could also have perhaps have edged his way back to victory with that. But definitely nice play there by Jeep. Good use of his Rangers, really sort of managed to cause a mess for Sandland from time to time. Heavy artillery use, I mean extensive artillery usage, rather causing a huge problem right there for Sandland, and certainly kept on it, and of course also moved towards armor, even upgunning his Sherman, so definitely also rather nice stuff there. He could have done with a bit more minds. I think also Sandland, perhaps on a more sort of wider scale, could have done with a bit more. I mean, the only spot he really mined was here, and that concentration rather worked against him once the artillery began flying. I mean, he never really bothered with the mines here, which is a bit, well, peculiar, to be honest. But there you go. Do hope you enjoyed this match. If you did, why not subscribe and tell your friends? And if you didn't, well, why not send a replay of your own? This is Imperial Dane saying cheers.